Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and here's another edition of Comic Uno episode 78, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show, and we go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week, so let's get started. Number 21. Number 21 is Batman Eternal, issue 38. I've been giving compliments to Batman Eternal, and now it's worst pick of the week. Batman Eternal got 2 stars this week. It just was kind of boring. Artwork, a bit too bright, honestly. I just don't think it worked. It didn't go too smoothly, the artwork this week. And it was the same artwork as last week also. But I felt like the story was a bit better last week. This week, it's just Batman villains going against each other. Batman trying to figure out what's going on in Gotham again. And Catwoman being the head, being the queen. And being a villain. And that's what the issue's about. There's not a lot going on. It was pretty boring. It was wordy. The art wasn't great. And I was just disappointed overall. So Batman Eternal issue 38 gets 2 stars. That was number 21. Alright, so number 20 is Butterfly issue 4. Yeah, so Butterfly, I'm gonna say I've not been very interested in this series. It had promise, though. You know, this daughter, she's lost, and her father left her. And she's like, oh, well, my father's alive. Let's try and make a connection. Both these characters were so boring. And I think that was the worst thing about Butterfly. The reason I kind of stuck to it was, oh, you know, it's 4 issues, and I was reading it digitally, so I was like, I'll give it a try. But honestly, it ended on a boring note. It was just not interesting, and these characters never became interesting to me. Artwork was actually pretty well done. I think it fit the series pretty well, but the story fell really flat. So Butterfly, I gave it 2 stars. Alright, so number 19 is Future's End, issue 34. So Future's End, for me, is also just very low. Future's End, it's just very jumpy and things are not happening. The only story I really liked here was the Firestorm story. And I would love just a whole issue on Firestorm because that was honestly one of the best issues, was only Firestorm. And then we go to the boring parts. We get to see the Frankenstein Ant-Man story. I don't care. I don't care about that story. They try to get this monster thing, they destroyed it. Then we have Grifter's story, that they have these British people that are on his side, and it's like, oh, well, we gotta get Grifter. And now Grifter's dealing with, 50 Sue. 50 Sue wants to kill Deadpool, and she's wearing a Deadpool dress, which I just noticed that now. So she's wearing a Deadpool dress. And then we get to see Batman Beyond talk to Alfred, and then you have the Batman Joker story that you have not seen in issues, but this is Batman Joker trying to go for Batman Beyond. Art's a bit, less detailed just because it feels very rushed. And honestly, the story just feels very rushed. It did not click for me. I just think the only story that really interests me is the Firestorm story, and there's only 2 pages. There's like 2 or 3 pages of that story. And then there's all these other stories they're trying to squeeze in. The structure's all wrong, and there's just a lot of stories that didn't interest me here. And there's just a lot of books out this week. So I gave Future's End, issue 34, 2 stars. Hopefully next week will be better with only the only 3 issues that are out are these weeklies. I think we're up to number 18. Let me just check. Yes, we are up to number 18. Guess what's next? The weekly series, There Are Two Worlds End, issue 12. At least it's not worst pick of the week this week. Or 2 got out of that. It's still a 2-star book. This issue, the only reason it got higher than Future's End, because I think the Hunter story is kind of interesting. Where we can see the Huntress is the Fury, and Power Girl tries to get, tries to get to her, and Huntress is like, no, I'm a Fury, let's go. And that's her story. And then we get to see all the other boring stories. I do like the Dick Grayson story. Dick Grayson, being angry that Barbara died. It seems like it's official that she died now. Then, the Darkseid story. And the World Army trying to get, try and get organized again. That's pretty much what happens. And also, I guess the cover is really misleading too. Because as Green Lantern, he's not really in this issue. I mean, he's like, you see his face once. So overall, yeah, I didn't love the issue. I do think it was a bit higher, again, because of the Huntress issue, and the Huntress story, and you get a little bit more pages of Huntress here. Artwork's a bit better here, too, but overall, not a great issue. So Earth 2 World's End, issue 12, 2 stars. And that is number 18. Alright, let's move on to number 17, which is Dark Shaman, issue 3. This has also been a shaky series. I feel like I really enjoyed the first issue. You got some good character development. I liked it, and I liked that had to do with the American Indians. I thought that was pretty cool, you know, something that we usually don't get. Did I say the American Indians? I meant the Native Americans. Don't ask me why, I just said it's late at night. So, I did like that story a lot in the beginning, and then, like, it became like a horror story, like a horror thing I've seen from Zenescope a lot already, and I've only started. I was like, oh, it's kind of generic Zenescope, even though I liked the horror stuff from Zenescope. Felt a bit generic, like we've seen it before. And then the character development just didn't continue in issue 2 or 3, and I think that's the biggest problem here. Like, you see her turn into this big, like, creature thing, and, you know, go towards her culture, but do I care? Not really, because I don't really know much about these characters. I think they did a good job in issue 1, like, I felt interested, and that's why I gave it such a high grade. And then issue 2 and 3, it just felt really flat. So 2.5 stars for me for Dark Shaman. Right, now we're up to number 16. Which is They're Not Like Us, issue 1. Not a bad series, but a bit generic, honestly. Series about this girl who wants to commit suicide because she has powers, and she doesn't know that, and she just thought she was crazy. But now she meets people that are just like her. And they don't want to really live with other people. It's kind of like the X-Men, but to the extreme, and they're not heroes. And by the end of the issue, you find out that these people say, well, you gotta disconnect yourself from your old life. And that's why just in case you're tempted to go back to your old life, yeah, you gotta kill your parents. So I thought that was an interesting twist, and maybe it gets me to buy issue 2, but the artwork is very sketchy here. And to get to that point, the series is pretty generic. Like, I don't care about any character so far. There's no development of that main character. She's trying to commit suicide. But you don't really get into her head. You don't really know who this main character is. And I think that's a big problem with the issue. Because you wait so long for that cliffhanger, I think a lot of people lost interest throughout the issue. And again, the artwork doesn't really help. It's a bit on the sketchy side. At least in my opinion, I wasn't really fond with it. But overall, I give They're Not Like Us 3 stars. I do think it has potential. I like the cliffhanger. I might get issue 2, but it's a bit on the generic side. Alright, so now we're up to number 15, which is Deathstroke, issue 3. This issue obviously has great artwork. Love the artwork for this series. Just the detail Tony S. Daniel does is great. So you might be asking, if the artwork is so wonderful, why is the series so low? The reason it's low, I think the story structure is really off, honestly. If you're new to Deathstroke, you're going to be really confused. I'm not new to Deathstroke. Have I been the biggest Deathstroke fan for years? No, but I'm not new to Deathstroke. 'Cause I know who Jericho is, I know who Rose is, also just because I'm a Teen Titans fan. But if you didn't read the previous New 52 series, you don't really know what's in the New 52 and what's not. Is Rose and Jericho really possible? You don't know, because Rose was in the Superboy series. Didn't seem like she had a connection to Deathstroke, so that really made me curious. I'm like, oh, I didn't know Rose was, actually Deathstroke's daughter in the New 52. So that made me curious. So that's, a problem here, is that there's just so much going on, and you don't really lay the structure for a new series of what's going on, because you got flashbacks, you got heroes, you got villains, they're all coming in. So that's another big problem I have is the random villains that come here for no real reason. Harley Quinn comes in on cliffhanger, says, oh, well, I need to get Deathstroke, because Suicide Squad got them. So you got Harley Quinn, you got Bronze Tiger, you got Red, I always forget his name, Red Fury, you get all these villains, but really, do you care about them? They're just kind of thrown in there. And the things you do care about are Jericho, Rose, and the father. I think these are the interesting stories they need to focus on, and kind of stay away from the other villains for now. Bring in other villains. If you want to bring Harley Quinn, that's awesome. I love Harley Quinn. But not right now. There's too much going on in this issue. So that's the reason it's a bit low. I know I had a lot to say about Deathstroke. I have a lot of passion here. 3.5 stars for me. Has potential. The structure needs work. Alright, number 14. The Flash, issue 37. Not a bad issue. What I like about this issue, we get to see a little bit of a continuation of prehistoric Flash, current Flash, who's in this prehistoric Speed Force time, where all different people from different time periods are there, people from the future, present, past, whatever. You don't really get that much progression there, but he's getting used to this place and he just wants to leave. Present Flash. He's not the best guy. Present, future, future, present Flash. That's his name right now. He's not the greatest guy, and Patty's starting to see that. He's like, oh, well, something's wrong with Barry. But you know what? Just, maybe I'm just seeing things. So, you see suspicions with the new Barry. That's pretty much what happens here. So, the pacing's a bit off with the series. I do think this Future Flash story has been going on for way too long. I mean, how long has it been going on for? Really? Just to get him, to see him. It's been forever for that. And now that he's here, it's like, I don't know if the time was really that much worth it. So, pacing's a bit off. Even though stories are interesting, I like seeing these interactions, I kind of want to see more. It doesn't seem like a lot's happening. And this story just needs to progress. So overall, I gave The Flash issue 37 3.5 stars. Alright, number 13 is She-Hulk, issue 11. Fun issue. We get to see the blue file come into the story a bit more, and we get to see that Titania wants to kill She-Hulk, and she throws her into New Jersey. They're in Brooklyn. Manhattan's totally passed, and she's thrown into New Jersey. The whole gang, they're trying to defeat Titania and her crew, and they do. They defeat her, but we find out that there's more people connected to this blue folder. So the next issue, I think, is the last issue, which kind of sucks because I do like the series, but it is the last issue. Do I want it really to end on the blue file? I think that's the one negative I could say, is that the blue file's not that interesting, but I really enjoyed the action sequences here. The action was great. Seeing these two fight, people swinging each other to different states was pretty cool. So look, just a lot of the great fun action here, fun interaction between the villains and She-Hulk was really fun. And then Hellcat coming in, Patsy coming in, and Jen's secretary. It was a fun issue. Is it the best She-Hulk issue? Probably not, but it's still a very fun issue, and the blue file I do think needs to get a bit more interesting for next issue, but this is a lot of fun. So She-Hulk, 3.5 stars for me. Alright, now we're up to number 12, I think. Yes, we're up to number 12, which is Injustice Gods Among Us, issue 6. This issue was really good. I like the artwork here. Artwork's beautiful for Injustice Gods Among Us. And we get to see a really good point A to point B issue, where we get to see Batman comes up with a plan, and he pretends to be Aragon. Never can say that guy's name right, so if I say it wrong, tell me, I guess. So Aragon, he pretends to be Aragon, and Superman, in his mind, he's so corrupt that he's like, Batman, you're evil, you just became a demon. Can't you see I'm right? Let's be friends. And Batman just makes Superman go to sleep. So who's going to be the new Emperor? Is Superman going to get out of this? We'll have to see. But overall, I thought this was a good issue. I liked it. I think the reason I did give this 3.5 stars, the reason is there's a lot of Phantom Stranger, Spectre stuff. Those are characters I don't quite care about. But once we do get to that cliffhanger with Batman and Superman, it is very interesting. It just gets it takes a little while to get to that part. But if you're interested in these characters, I think you'll love it. It's just, for me, I'm not a big Magic fan, so I did give it 3.5 stars, but I do think this was a really good issue. Or it was a good issue. So Injustice Gods Among Us, issue 6, gets 3.5 stars. Alright, so number 11 is Outcast, issue 6. I was actually not going to get this issue, just because I got to get it at the comic book store, and I bought it digitally off Comixology, and I saw the description and I was like, oh, wrapping up stories, we'll see where it goes next. And what I like about Outcast is I love the artwork. I love the way they zoom into facial expressions. That's great. I do like the characters, but the main story is something I don't know if I'm latching on to. So even though it's a good story, I don't know if I'm latching on to that main story to get me to those next issues. The next issue is coming out in March, so I think I will continue it, because this issue was pretty interesting, where we get to see definitely more character development of our main character, dealing with demons, and I like the kind of religious aspect it takes. You know, usually demon stories is always like on the demon's perspective, but this is more of a religious perspective. And yeah, so I definitely enjoyed this issue a bit more, and I like the perspective of it, and the artwork is beautiful. But I do think that the main story needs to get a bit more interesting. It needs to get more of a hook. I think they had that hook with, you know, the mother, the wife who were also demonized, and then also the sister was kind of an interesting character, but you don't get that much highlight on them throughout the whole issues. So I think concentrate more on those things, and maybe the series will get more interesting. But I am gonna keep going with it, see where it goes. I think this could be a slow burn series, but I'm still sticking with it. But 4 stars, because it is this, you know, I told you guys, it is an interesting story overall. Okay, number 10 is Uncanny X-Men, issue 29. Very solid issue. One negative I will say is artwork. So it went back to normal. I don't love the graffiti style, but I do like the story here. I think there's some good progression. It's about this new mutant who could destroy everything, and there's 2 people trying to figure out their own way to defeat this new mutant or to help the new mutant. We have one of the newer students that could time travel. She's going back to Professor X to try to maybe fix things here. Does this mean that we're going to go have Professor X back to present time? I hope not. I kind of want him to be retired for a bit more. I know he's going to come back soon, but I do want to see him dead for a little bit longer. Just because I don't like when heroes come back so quickly. So definitely don't want to see him back totally yet, but you know, we're seeing little visions of him now, which I'm okay with. Just don't bring him back to present time just yet. Then we get to see a cool story of Ileana. She tries to talk to Doctor Strange, and she gets a medallion to show the true inside of this new mutant and what potentially really does have. I mean, that's most of the issues, them trying to figure this all out, and, you know, they all have different plans, and also, you know, Cyclops analyzing himself. Is he really, you know, a mutant terrorist? Does he have the right reasons? He kind of thinks about it, and he's like, you know what, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. Magneto's like, well, you're not really doing the right thing. So it's, you know, same old, same old. So overall, I thought it was a very solid issue. I do think it progressed the story very well. We get to see, spotlights on characters you usually don't see spotlights on, like Ileana, which I think deserves more spotlight, and, you know, more the newer mutants of the Uncanny X-Men. So overall, Uncanny X-Men gets 10 stars. Gets, 4 stars for me, and it was number 10. Alright, so now we have number 9, which is Batman Annual Issue 3. This is pretty good. I'm going to go with the negatives first. Negative is $4.99. Batman's not really in here. It's not really a tie in Endgame. It is, but it isn't. Do you need that? Well, the best way to put it, do you need this for Endgame? Probably not. But the story is actually really well done. It's Joker having a best friend, and this guy, this normal guy, going crazy because of it. Because Joker picks him to be his best friend. And it's just really creepy. And I think it's a really well done story for the Joker. If you love the Joker, it's a really good one-shot story. Is it expensive? Yeah, I do think it's a bit too expensive for the story, but if you get it on sale, I think it is worth it. I do like the story. I think it's interesting to see this guy go crazy. You see, like, every page that this guy's going crazier and crazier. Artwork's really well done also. So overall, I give Batman Annual Issue 3 4 stars. Even though there's some cons to it, I do think that the story overall was pretty interesting. Alright, so we're moving on to number 8. Number 8 is Robin Hood Ongoing Issue 5. Very solid issue. We get to see that Robin Hood and Red, they're teaming up. They figure out a plan to escape those vampires. And Red says, hey, you might need a therapist. And then, you know, Robin Hood might be okay with that. Because she has a lot of anger issues. And, you know, it's just a really fun team up. I do really like these two. I hope we get to see more Red in this series. I would love her to be part of the crew. I think she's a really good addition. I don't think she will be, but I would love her to be. We'll see next issue. Or get her own series. That'd be awesome too. I think she's a great character. But overall, the team up was great. And it was a good issue. I thought it was a good ending to the arc, and we'll see if Robin Hood goes to a therapist. And I think she needs it. And I like the way they interact with it, because Brittany was a therapist, so they connected very well. So overall, it's a very solid issue, 4 stars. Alright, let's move on to number 7, which is Bionic Woman, Season 4, Issue 4. I will say the one disappointing thing about this is that this is only a miniseries, and I didn't know that. They did not promote it that way. And I'm a little upset, because I was like, oh, final issue. Final issue is only 4 issues. So it is a miniseries, and for that it did get a little lower, because the ending for a story arc was pretty good, but a miniseries did not get more. I was like, oh, I kind of wanted more, you know? But overall, there's some really great action here. Jamie is able to save the day and ride a spaceship. And ride it down to Earth. And, you know, have a date, which is cool, and have her own day to herself. Artwork's really well done here. And overall, I do think this is a really fun series. And if you like Bionic Woman, you want a nice original, not twist, but it's still a very modern take on the character, but still very nostalgic and in character for her, read this miniseries. It was really well done, and that's why I'm kind of upset that's only a miniseries. But overall, this issue got 4 stars for me. Alright, so we're moving on to number 6, which is Nova, issue 25, which I'm so happy. This was a big issue, and it was 1 story. That is really rare for Marvel. I always see Marvel's like, oh, extra issue, annual issue, and you have 3 stories. One's really good. The second one's like, oh, that was okay, and the third one's like, oh, do I really need to read this? So I'm glad it was just 1 story. You know, they're so rare to have that with Marvel, especially. So with this issue, we get to see Nova joins the Avengers. And he's just trying to figure out, like, what type of superhero is he now that he has a concussion? His helmet's broken. How is he going to fix this helmet? And, you know, him really changing as a character. You know, he went into this thinking he was going to be a star. But now, he doesn't want to take pictures. He's just honored to be on the Avengers. And artwork's pretty well done, too. I've seen a bit better. It's, you know, a bit artistic. It's a little artsy, I guess. Abstract, the best way to put it. I do like the past artwork for it, but still pretty good here. And overall, it's a really fun story. It brings back to why you like Nova so much. Nova is a good series because it mixes the space, the superheroes, and family, and his actual life. And I think that's so rare for a galactic space series from Marvel to go back to grounded elements. And it's fun. It's a galactic story, a cosmic story that is grounded. And I've been saying that about Nova. And this was a great issue, getting Nova onto the Avengers and just proving that after 25 issues, he has grown as a character. And just picture him in a couple more years. So this was really well done. Nova kind of connected to Axis in the end. You get a Carnage cliffhanger. We'll see how that goes in the next issue. But Nova issue 25 gets 4 stars for me. That's number 6. Now we're going to top 5. Number 5, Superior Iron Man, issue 3. Really well done issue. What I really liked about Superior Iron Man in general is that Superior Iron Man is kind of an asshole, but you still like Iron Man. And I think Tom Taylor is really one of the rare writers that can do that. There's a thin line of liking this guy and not liking him in his superior state. And Tom Taylor makes you like him. So I like that. And I think Matt was a great addition to this story arc. Matt's able to see, but he doesn't care. He's like, I don't want to follow you because you think you're a god, and if I can see, I'll be addicted to you, and I don't want to be addicted to you. And he's like, alright. You know, Iron Man's like, alright, you know what? I'm going to fly away. If you want me, it's free, so yeah, you just come and get me. And then, he calls Foggy, and he just wants to see Foggy. I love that scene. He just wants to see Foggy, and he's okay with being blind again, because he doesn't want to be controlled by Iron Man. And then also you have a little B plot with Pepper and Heroes Reborn Iron Man, and they're trying to figure out a way to fix Superior Iron Man, which might take a while. But that Matt story was so good, and that's why it is in the top 5. Love that cliffhanger. It was very close to being a 4.5 star book, but you know, I do want to see the Superior Iron Man story progress a bit more. That's a bit of a complaint, but the artwork is beautiful, and the character story here is so great, and Tom Taylor is such a great character writer. So Superior Iron Man for me, issue 3, gets 4 stars. Alright, so number 4 is Revival, issue 26. This is such a great series. There's so much emotion here. We get to see that Martha goes against one of the people that tried killing her friend, I guess. I think she used to be her teacher, and this girl knows that, Teo knows that Martha is a Revival. Now she kind of has to work with the enemy, and now she's also thinking she's pregnant, and that kind of like goes into her mind now, especially since she almost like beat up that guy. You see, with every issue of Revival, what I love is that Martha really is truly changing. And I just reread Revival again because I really do love this series. I just reread it maybe a couple weeks ago, and what I like about Revival is that, you know, even though when Martha was just changing to be a Revival, she was a bit brighter, and now she still wants to attack people. She's becoming darker and darker, and there's a lot of great religious undertones here also. Her, you know, the guy that she's fighting, you know, saying, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes and I want a second chance. And maybe we can get our wings, you know, even though we weren't great people before, we can get our angel wings. And now you kind of understand Martha's jacket, that, you know, she is someone that's come back to life. So can she have a religious undertone to her? You know, what is this religious aspect after someone comes back to life? So I do like that story a lot, and there's just a great undertone with it, not pushing too much in Revival, but it's just really great undertone. And I love that about the angel wings, and you know how she has her sweatshirt, which is very iconic for the character. Then we have a really emotional moment with Dana, where Dana and her father have a discussion that the father said that, you know, I want to tell you that, you know, Cooper got kidnapped when you were in New York. And now he's like, you know, I just want to be honest with you, Martha. And Dana's like, yeah, you know, I'm totally honest with you also. And then she just like this awesome page, just this awesome scene where we get to see that Dana just collapses, and she just shouts because she knows she's keeping so much secrets, and is this the right thing to do? And also her family's being threatened, you know, Cooper's being threatened, so now she's going all out. You know, we haven't seen this in a while, but she's going out and becoming undercover cop again. So overall, artwork is beautiful for the series. The story, just every issue progresses so well, and I gave Revival issue 26 4.5 stars, and I really hope the father finds out about Martha soon. I think it's getting to that point. I mean, now Martha's pregnant. So much going on with her. You know, she's a reviver. Father needs to find out. Hopefully soon. So, 4.5 stars for me for that. Next is Daredevil issue 11. Another great issue for Daredevil. I think this is a great story arc. We get to see this Daredevil. He steals the name of an older Daredevil guy, you know, a Daredevil, and actually Daredevil guy riding a motorcycle. He does all these death-defying tricks. And the older one who felt like he stole his name, he tries to go to Matt and, you know, company and figure out, like, how do I sue him? You know I gave all my money to these people, but, like, what do I do? I'm really depressed. And we find out that this guy commits suicide, but he really doesn't, because the new Daredevil, and again, not Matt, but this star Daredevil, kidnapped the original celebrity, and now he might die. So this celebrity has not been doing all his own tricks, but now we might see that original Daredevil die because of it. So I thought there was just a lot of great story developments that I didn't expect, a lot of great twists and turns, a good cliffhanger, and then just, you know, great moments between Kristen and Foggy and Matt about the book. Artwork, of course, is beautiful for this series here. Just overall, just really well done, structured issue here. So Daredevil issue 11 made me excited, and it's really a shame that this series is going to be going soon. Alright, so that was number 3. Number 2 is Hawkeye Vs Deadpool issue 3. This is such a fun issue. I loved it. Artwork is great for the series also. And it's Kate and Deadpool teaming up, trying to get Clint, because he's being mind controlled by Black Cat right now. And by the end of the issue, Kate and Deadpool are able to kind of save the day, but Clint has to pretend to be under mind control now because Black Cat might kill Clint. Such a fun issue, just seeing Kate and Deadpool's chemistry with each other. You know, Deadpool has a knife in his chest, and Kate's like all disgusted, and she has to pull it out. And you know, Deadpool's like, you know, that didn't even hurt. And she stabs him again. One of my favorite parts is the rocket launcher, and she's like, I've never used this before. Why are you giving this to me? He's like, use it, take it. And she's like, all right. So just to save Clint, because it's Clint. So she, you know, points at it, and she has it the wrong way. So she, you know, repoints it, and he's like, oh yeah, that was so awesome. He's like, oh my god, it just destroyed New York. So just that chemistry, the comedic moments were here. Such a fun issue. If you guys are not reading Hawkeye vs Deadpool and you missed this series, read it. It's so good. And I think it's a very under the radar series because I haven't seen a lot of people been reading it. So Hawkeye vs Deadpool, get this series. So good. So what made number 1? Graveyard Shift, issue 1, a new series from Image. Why I gave this issue 1, why I gave this number 1 is because I thought this was a really unique book. And I think it has a lot of potential. It's about, you know, a vampire world, and these police officers get killed. So our main protagonist is a police officer, and you find out this guy was friends with them. So these vampires try to kill the police officer and his wife, or his fiance, and the fiance dies, and he finds out after he blacks out his fiance died. So he goes to the cemetery to, you know, say his prayers, and we find out that the fiance is a vampire, and since we know this is a romance crime story, and you know the way that I structured the description for the story, Hope is which is the fiance, is gonna want to find out why she's a vampire, and it's gonna be a nice mystery story. And what I like about Graveyard Shift is that I'm excited to see what vampires mean in Graveyard Shift. Now that Hope is a vampire, is she evil? Is she not evil? Why do these vampires want this police officer? Why do they do this? There's a lot of great questions here. Artwork fits so well, and it made me excited to read the series as a whole. I hope this is an ongoing series, because overall, this is really good, and I think had a lot of potential. So that's why I made number 1, and I can't wait to read issue 2. So if you guys enjoyed, this is Comic Uno. Guys, don't forget to follow me on Twitter for Comic Uno and the Rant Situations. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Description below, there's links for my comic book, like Father Like Daughter. Don't forget to like the Facebook page of like Father Like Daughter, and let me know in the comments below what was your pick of the week, your worst pick of the week, and everything in between. And I'll have Comic Uno episode next week also. So if you guys enjoyed, I'll see you guys later.